She had learned to flinch at every hand that reached for her. Pain always followed. Shackled, silenced, and sold, she was nothing more than a tool, a thing to be handled and discarded. So when the human knelt beside her, hands slow, voice low, she tensed, eyes wide, breath caught. But instead of hurt, his fingers brushed the tear sliding down her cheek. No harsh grip, no command, just quiet compassion. And in that single moment, her world cracked open, not with fear, but with something she'd almost forgotten existed, hope. She crouched in the corner of the holding cell, her arms wrapped tightly around her knees, bare feet pressed to cold steel. The lights above flickered with the low hum of neglect. Her pale lavender skin was smudged with grime, her once silken silver hair tied in a matted bun at the base of her neck. Her body was delicate but strong, molded by survival, slender limbs covered in faint scars, thighs curled under her in a posture that blended both shame and alertness. Her soft, amber-gold eyes didn't blink as the door hissed open. Bootsteps echoed. She braced. Every time a door opened, it brought pain. Orders barked. Straps tightened. Electric prongs. So when the shadow of a man fell across her trembling form, she dug her fingers into her legs and squeezed her eyes shut. She waited for it, the grabbing, the dragging, the inevitable cruelty. But none came. Instead, a voice. Low. Human. Hey, it's okay. I'm not here to hurt you. Her eyes flicked open. The man was kneeling. Not towering. Not shouting. He placed something gently on the floor in front of her, a folded thermal blanket and a sealed ration pack. His hands moved slowly, deliberately open-palmed. No stun rod. No collar. Just hands. He didn't come closer. He didn't demand anything. He just sat, cross-legged, a few feet away, watching her like someone who saw her, not as equipment, not as a slave, but as someone. She didn't move. Couldn't. Minutes passed. He said his name was Marcus. He told her where they were now, a recovery vessel, not a slave ship. He explained she'd been rescued, not purchased. She listened without trusting. Words meant nothing here. Actions did. Then came the moment. She blinked. One tear slipped down her cheek. Just one. She hadn't even known it was there. He moved. Carefully. Slowly. One hand reaching forward. She jerked back against the wall, pressing herself into the cold metal. Her breath hitched. Her fingers gripped the steel. But his touch never hurt. It brushed against her skin like air, fingers cupping her cheek, thumb catching the tear. It wasn't ownership. It wasn't command. It was care. She stared at him, unblinking, barely breathing. Her heart thundered so loudly in her ears she could barely hear the softest thing he whispered next. No one will ever hurt you again. Her chest broke. Not physically, but something inside crumbled. She had prepared herself for every kind of pain, but never this kind of kindness. She shook. He didn't rush. He handed her the blanket and stepped back again, giving her space like she mattered. Her trembling fingers reached for the cloth, clumsy and unsure. She wrapped it around herself, suddenly overwhelmed by how warm it was. She had not felt warmth in so long. Not from cloth. Not from words. He waited outside the cell for hours. When she finally stood, the blanket falling gently around her frame like a robe, she took slow steps. Her body still expected traps. Still expected pain. But none came. And when he reached for her hand, she froze, but she did not pull away. His fingers curled around hers gently, no pressure. No demand. She looked down at their joined hands. And then up at him. She didn't speak. Her throat had long forgotten how. But in her eyes, wide, wet, and astonished, there was a question, trembling at the edge of belief. Why? He didn't answer right away. Just squeezed her hand gently. Because you deserve better. Because you're not a thing. You're someone. She staggered forward. Not from weakness. But because something inside had shifted, tilted toward the terrifying light of hope. It wasn't easy. Her muscles tensed. Her eyes darted. She had been trained to expect pain in response to movement. But the warmth of his hand never changed. He led her through quiet halls. Not cages. Not cells. But clean floors and soft lights. Other survivors peeked from their rooms, some too afraid to leave. She understood. She had just been one of them. He brought her to a small room. Simple. A bed. A basin. A mirror. She stopped. The reflection nearly crushed her. She hadn't seen herself in cycles. The girl in the mirror was filthy. Eyes sunken. Skin dry. Hair tangled. But beneath the damage, she saw someone. Someone who could maybe become whole again. He left her there. Alone. For the first time, the door didn't lock. She didn't sleep that first night. But she wrapped the blanket tighter, climbed onto the soft bed, and lay still, watching the door, the light, her hands. And somewhere in the silence, she whispered the first word her lips had remembered in years. Safe. She wasn't sure if she believed it yet, but she wanted to. And that was a start.